Yo, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Logan here with Y.B.Normal, and this is the Class in Session podcast. It's your boy. My name is Logan Taylor. I'm your host with my amazing co-host, Mr. Dontay Hampton, and we have a special guest on here for you all today. This podcast is going to be amazing. The woman that we're getting ready to bring on is an amazing and a gem and a diamond in her own right. And so we're super excited to be with you all today and be able to share this experience. So this is the Class in Session podcast, and I want to welcome on Dr.Desiree Seay.
Give small claps for her. Small claps. We'll just give y'all a brief background or just some info about her. Dr.Seay in December 2021 graduated with a terminal degree from Lincoln Memorial University, a Doctor of Education, concentrating in instructional leadership. She's one of the youngest principals in the city of Chattanooga currently, and is a very proud graduate as well of the Leadership Chattanooga Best Class of 2021. She has served in administration in Hamilton County since 2018. Prior to arriving to Chattanooga, Dr. Seay began her teaching career in 2013 at Austin East Magnet High School of Knox County Schools. She lives by the personal mantra, although I walk with my grace, I have a mighty roar. And she's also the current principal of Chattanooga Charter School. So as you can see, she got a lot of power. She's doing a lot of things. So we're excited to have her in here. So tell us something, Dr. Seay, tell us something.
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me on the podcast. It's such a pleasure. What could I tell you? As you stated in my bio, this is my first year. Actually, today is my 1-year anniversary of accepting the position as principal at Chattanooga Charter School of Excellence Middle. And man, it has been a journey. When you think about principalship, you think like, man, my name is on the building. Someone asked me, how's it going? I explain it best as good, hard work. Like every day you walk in the building, you eat a slice of humble pie. And if you're not, something's
right. Absolutely wonderful. Dr. Seay, thank you for being on with us. So just tell us a little bit about your journey, with being in the education space. We know that it's tough. We know that it's a lot. So just give us a little background on your journey. Like, why did you get into education?
And that's a very good question. So growing up, I'm a preacher's kid. So growing up, going to church, but not just going to church, I actually taught Bible study. I recall being like 14 years old and teaching Bible study to a myriad of ages from like 0 to like kids who are older than me. And being able to hold their attention. And so I would do vacation Bible school. I would do Wednesday night Bible study, play the drums, be in the choir, all these things. But I really, really love working with kids. And so by the time I matriculated through high school, I was going to school for computer science. I was going to be bilingual, all these things. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to teach. I'm going to go out here and make this dope. And so that was really my focus. Like, I'm just going to go be successful, be great. But as I started going through college, I realized, choosing computer science, I'm very much a social butterfly. This is not the right field for me. But all through college, I still continued to work with kids at my local church. But the jobs that I had in college, it was, AmeriCorps, working with kids, after school programming, Emerald Youth, working with kids. And so by the time I got to the end of my sophomore year, I was like, man, like, okay, there's something to this. I can't keep ignoring it. So I changed my degree of study to mathematics. I was already minoring in. I was like, let me just go ahead and teach, so went through the education program at University of Tennessee. I ran into one of the administrators, local store that I was working in, and she was like, hey, you finished, give me a call. Well, the minute I, graduated, passed my praxis, gave her a call, interviewed, I got my job at Austin East. And so while I was there, started teaching and fell in love with the kids even more. Mind you, my history had been working with kids, from across America, again, to like after school tutoring groups. But when I got into the classroom, it was just a different ball game. Like, number one, I was so young, like I was literally like 6 years older than the kids. So it was like I was a big sis. But they were really living life like in the realest way. And they just really needed some support and structure. And so I fell in love with the kids I was teaching at Austin East. But on the inside, it was like, okay, this is a really good place. I feel like I'm home, but this isn't it. This is really just the beginning, you know. And so throughout that process of teaching, I got involved in leadership, continued to go through school, and it was like, okay, I'm pursuing leadership, but I'm pursuing administration. Just because as I started serving in the classroom, you just recognize that sometimes decisions you don't necessarily have the opportunity to really make the decisions that really impact the students the way you want. And so for me, it was just like I really want to create some opportunities for kids who don't even know they need one. And I know I can't do that just inside the classroom. And so that's what really pushed me into administration. And so by the time I finished my education specialist degree, an opportunity opened up here in Hamilton County. And you know, I interviewed and I got my first job as an administrator at Brainerd High School as the dean of students. And so that was such a powerful experience. Of course, you know, you went from one rival school to the other, but it didn't matter. The kids love me the same. Of course, you talk young, you know, you have all the pride, and
That's a big rivalry right there.
it is a huge.
That's pretty big.
Let me be quite transparent. I was actually an assistant basketball coach when the huge incident broke out between the schools. I was actually there.
Wow.
When that happened,
Wow.
getting ready to transition out. So it was a whirlwind, like that entire incident. But what I love the most is that the accountability that those kids really encountered in that incident. Like what people don't see is behind the scenes. They came together. We had like a sportsmanship conference. We did community service together to bridge that gap and to really mend what had taken place and really hold them accountable, to teach them about, you know, what it meant to be good citizens of both schools that have good sportsmanship, but also have like a healthy rivalry. So it was really cool to be a part of that restoration process too. But let alone leave and then come to the rival school and be an administrator. So that's kind of how I got into administration. And you talk about a principalship. Last year I was serving at East Lake Academy as the assistant principal, had been there. And I remember literally walking, we were working out. It was like summertime. And I literally said to my friend, I said, hey man, I'm really content here. I love serving here. I'm making an impact. I really want to be here, but you know, I'm going to do whatever the Lord tells me to do, because at the end of the day, that is something that guides me. And literally the next day, the opportunity at Chattanooga Charter presented itself. And that's kind of how I started that path and ended up at Chattanooga Charter. But nonetheless, I really believe that like God had my pathway laid out for me, and it was just for me to walk in it really. You know, school of hard knocks along the way, but it's been a really, really good journey that I would not deny, and I'd do it again.
Awesome. 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 Now, what is like a common myth that about your job or being a principal that people say? You know how like there's a common myth or something that like a rumor or something that people always say about a principal that's not true.
I think one myth that was definitely debunked this year is that principals are hard to reach and they're like paper pushers. And this year, that couldn't be any further from the truth. Like, being a principal, it doesn't work that way. In
Right.
fact, if you are, you know, just pushing paper, you know, people will be concerned. Because I think that's the one thing I really learned this year is to be present for my staff in ways that you couldn't imagine. You know, although this wasn't a full out COVID year, we still experienced a bit of like the quarantine, you know, at the beginning of the school year. Which can be really hard and trying. You know, our scholars are really returning to school for a first full year since COVID and really trying to be great. It was hard. And so there are many points where I couldn't just stay in my office. I couldn't hole up in my office and just be in there and, you know, just doing my work and just be like, forget the rest of the world. Like, no, I had to be on the floor. Sometimes it looked like, are you the assistant principal, the principal? You know, it was like, no, I'm out here. Like, I need my people to see me. There are opportunities too that presented itself to where, you know, people think as the principal, you're the face of the school. You got to keep together, smiling. You know, there's some we call some huddles, and it's like, hey man, the baby is ugly today. You know, we had to get real. And so I think that is one of the myths, the biggest myth people think is that, you know, when you step into the role of a principal, you know, you just really sitting behind a desk, just calling all the shots. And it's like, no, this is really still a big collaborative effort. I'm still responsible for everything, but this is a huge collaborative undertaking that requires all stakeholders. So.
Absolutely.
I love it. I love it. And so, with this being your first year as, a head principal, what is some advice um, that you would give a person that's starting out as a first year principal? What's just give us, 3 or 4 things that, in regards to just being a first year principal, what's some things that you would suggest, like, hey, look out for this, or hey, don't do this?
I would say first and foremost, and honestly, it's really with any position, you know, change is not an easy thing. It's a transition process. So the first thing I would say is seek first to understand, and ask clarifying questions. So literally, you know, people at school that, you know, my teacher would make fun of me like, Dr.Seay, I know what you're about to say. What have we done historically? That is a common question that I ask all the time. So, you know, when you come in and, you know, you're trying to establish your principalship, establish your own leadership and the way you do things, it's important to acknowledge what was, so that you are well informed on what needs to transition, if anything. And so this year, my goal wasn't to come in and like uproot, change, shift, and do a whole lot of things. In fact, that would be an insult to what's been established before, you know, because when you come into a new place, sometimes we have that arrogant assumption that everything before us was wrong, and that's so far from the truth. So I think it's important that when you step into a new place is to first observe, see what's happening already, see what's there. You know, everybody has their own ideas of what you should be doing. But if you take a moment to take in what's already existing, then that gives you a better opportunity to really lead with purpose and with intention. And then two, as you change, you know, you have people who are following you. And so because of that, I can't just come in and make all these first, second order changes and expect everybody just to be on the boat. It takes time, you know, and so in terms of transitioning, you know, set a realistic goal, a realistic time frame. Like my focus for this year was really to really bolster culture and empowerment. That was going to be first and foremost because as a new leader, you don't know me, I don't know you. And so in order for us to really make a big impact, we have to be unified, and understand one another. And so a lot of this shit was getting to know, getting to know, getting to know. It's really about the who. You know, the who's in your building. You have to have the right people in your building in the
Absolutely.
and so I think that was important. And understanding that when you come into a situation, things are going to change. People are going to change. You're going to learn that some people are not on the same, you know, everybody's in a boat. Everybody's not pushing the same direction. You know, some are, you know, drilling holes. Some are really trying to pump and get us there. Others are paddling backwards, you know, and so you have to observe, take time to see who's who, and get the right people on the boat. I think that's first and foremost, before you can really make a big impact.
Awesome. Awesome. So with you, what do you have? What are your expectations in regards to this being your second year as a principal? What are the expectations that you have set for yourself in regards to being in administration versus then when you were a teacher and and things of that nature?
Man, that's a really good question. The biggest lesson I learned, that you don't really get until you sit in this seat is number one, regardless what has happened, good or bad, you are responsible. You are responsible. And so the good things, beautiful. The bad things, okay, what you gonna do about it?
Yeah.
You know, I think there's another professional out there, a principal that says, "So what? Now what?" You know, and so looking back at this year, making the gains, growing. So what now? What are we gonna do this year? You know, and so my mantra this year, is really great by choice. Something that we're gonna be focused on is being really intentional and deliberate. And you know, something that I advise that you have to monitor, expect what you expect. And so you know, naturally we trust people to do what they're supposed to do, and people have great intentions. But sometimes in that, even with great intentions, we have to inspect what we expect. And so even when the best of the best are doing everything they're supposed to do, sometimes we miss the mark when we don't take a look and like hold everything everyone accountable for everything that we're shooting for. And so this year, just really, really, really being intentional about pushing data-driven decisions with scholars' best interest in mind through and through, from the beginning to the middle to through the end, like really slowing down and evaluating what are we doing? Are we doing this with fidelity? The accountability measures and everything that we do. Yes, we can have a good time, have a great time, but where's the accountability? Pushing the academic rigor, pushing students to grow. Again, our kids are coming back, recovering from COVID. So we got a lot of ground to gain, and so with that, we don't have a lot of time to play, which requires great intentionality. And so that's my focus for this year.
All right, so I'm gonna slide a little controversial question in here, that something that's out there. We're just gonna see. So, as an educator, are teachers overpaid, or are they underpaid? Could there be a number, or if there's a value on what could possibly bridge the gap for educators as far as being a teacher, counselor, whatever? Is there a number that we could say, hey, this is a great number to start a teacher at. We value everything you do. We know how important you are to society, and this is what we'll give you. Or is there a package? Because, depending on the state, I know in Texas, they do have some housing where you can get a job. We can help you get your first house, car, things of that nature. So if there's a number, let us know.
I like that question. I'm actually not going to shy away from that. I think the reality is teachers are underpaid, grossly underpaid. We spend the most time with children than some of their parents naturally during the calculated school day, like 7.5 to 8 hours a day plus extracurriculars. That's a whole lot of time invested. So I do believe educators are underpaid.
Okay.
The harsh reality in that is, I like to say like this: either you're called or you're crazy, because the reality is it is what it is. We still have to do the job regardless of whether the paycheck is there or not.
Right.
So if you're in it for the money, you're sadly mistaken. But in terms of increasing pay, I don't think I can attach a dollar amount. I would say a package would be a beautiful thing. Why? Because I believe in holistic education for our scholars, meaning mind, body, and soul. And so if we are the teachers of that, then they also need the same. So the whole package is something that is absolutely a necessity. I think there is a sway in education right now, that big move to, taking care of yourself, the mental health, component of being an educator, me time, the wellness, the mindfulness. I think that's a big proponent, but it doesn't stop there. I think about the economical impact that educators could have. I think back in the day where, in the neighborhoods, the doctors, the lawyers, the teachers, the police officers lived in the hood with everybody else, and so I think creating educational packages where we're not just impacting kids, economically, futuristically speaking, but the profession itself is impacting the economy with better, benefit packages and things of that nature. So I certainly agree with it. Isn't just money on the table; it's the legacy. And when you talk about a package to support educators, it's the insurance, it's the pay, it's the vacation, but it's also how can we really build longevity in this industry with retirement packages, all
Right.
those kinds of things. So I think it's an all-inclusive, holistic approach. I think that's what really would make a big impact in education.
Okay. I just wanted to ask, because my opinion personally is I'm a package guy. I'm a stability. I personally believe in being sustained. So I feel like if you can get teachers in a sustainable space that slow down the burnouts, as far as people being quitting and I've been in this too long or I can't take it. I think if you were able to create some kind of housing package with a car, it don't have to be the highest car, but if you starting out for somebody at an entry level, I think you would get way more people in the field. Now, as far as the number, who knows? But I mean, if I'm 25, 26 years old and you tell me I got a house and a car on top of an entry level position, along with all the benefits, I think that percentage could go up. How much? Who knows?
Yeah. I think you bring up a good point. You talk about actually, in the dissertation work that I did, I focused on career and technical education, professional development perspectives. And so in that, I really found that onboarding is a critical piece of keeping teachers and keeping professionals who are not like groomed as education. Because, we talk to, young educators all the time. Like, just because you took the class, that's good in theory, but in practice it's different, And so when you talk about being in practice, you absolutely need like clear objectives, measurable objectives.
Right.
What am I doing? Why am I doing it? Support systems, because it is going to get hard. Things won't make sense, and this is where theory meets practice, and you
Right.
come from experiencing your reality. So, it's not just that beneficial package of like the car, the house, the insurance, all of that. It's also too, what system are you joining? How are you really sustaining the people that you have joining your team? That's a part of retention.
Gotcha.
I love it. Awesome. So let me ask you this: what are some struggles that you've dealt with being a first year administrator? What are some of the struggles that you've dealt with?
Wow, that's a great question as well. I would say balance, juggling time. Like, if you think you organize, you have to really be extra organized in the seat of a principal. Just because the way in which you process things or carry out things, it works for you, but you're talking about systems, like people who are inside of systems working to execute a common goal. And when there are breaks in organization, like organizational leadership is really a skill set you do have to develop, and it's something that you will naturally improve on as you step in. Some things you get in it, like we said, theory meets practice, but the more organized you are, the easier it is to infiltrate and see the implementation of systems versus when there are pockets of you know um, disjointed areas that can breed confusion, and it's unintentional, and that costs you time to fix, to change, to update. So I think something as a first year principal, that is something that I struggled with and improved on. And then when we talk about being present, present can mean a whole lot of different things, like physically present, emotionally present. um Teachers like to feel like you're in it with them, like just what, like I like to say, straight up 100. Teachers like to feel like you are in it with them. And so something that I really had to work to do is not just be in the hallway, but create that open door policy where we can sit down and we can talk through, be thought partners with teachers, to help them know that, hey, this is our process, this is where we're going, this is where you are, and it's okay right now, but we're gonna like refine and be better. And when the going gets hard, sometimes it's like you call on teachers for one more thing. Sometimes that could be the straw on the camel's back, and being present helps with that. It's like you're asking me to do one more thing, Dr. C. I don't know if I got it, but you know what? You're here with me, and I know you're in this with me, so I'm gonna do it because you asked me to. I think that makes a difference. And then I'm in a public charter versus being in Hamilton County, and so the learning curve of that in and of itself was really something to grasp. In that, when you're in charter world, we're Hamilton County serves as our authorizer, so we have the autonomy to create our own curriculum, or choose our own curriculum rather, but it's in accordance to what is outlined in our charter. So those milestones, those checkpoints, making sure everything is up to snuff is like really key and critical. And when you're inside of a district, you have the luxury of different departments doing everything, whereas when you're in charter, you are your district central office essentially. And so there are a lot of different things, different avenues that I had to learn to facilitate, to ensure that we were in compliance, making sure we're doing everything that we're supposed to do. And I have an amazing team of leadership. My superiors, they're awesome, but we are in charter, so it does look a little different. So there was definitely a learning curve in that.
Absolutely. And I heard you talk about legacy. And so you know me, I'm big on leaving a legacy. I'm all about legacy and serving and things of that nature. What do you want your legacy to look like when you leave education?
Oh, that's a great question. I really want my kids to know, like, I really love, there's a poem called Equipment by Robert A. Guest that says, you have all that the greatest of men have had. And so my legacy that I want to leave is, I want my kids to understand, despite any excuse you think you have, you still have rhyme or reason to overcome and to accomplish. Despite what odds are stacked against you, you have every opportunity to be something and make something of yourself. And it's by the choice that you choose to make. And so you can do anything, like, and I know that sounds cliche, but sometimes that's what they need to understand. Like, no, sweetheart, you can do anything. And so because you can do anything, here's the standard. Let me set the standard for you, so you understand that we're not talking about just, getting good grades. That's your reasonable service. But we're talking about, let me expose you to opportunities you never know you even needed. Like, let me expose you to careers you never knew about, or you knew about them, but let me help you get there. Like, for real. I've had this statue that since I was 12 years old, my aunt gave it to me for my 12th birthday. And on it says, you may reach to the top, but your character is what's going to be that keeps you there, And so that is something that I really want my kids to understand, that,
That's deep.
full of
That's
excellence. Deep. So there's a standard. And despite what excuse you may have, the standard is the standard. I think that's it.
I love it. I love it. That's amazing. I love it. I love it. Dontay, come on, hop in here.
All right. Let me see. So another, I like to be controversial now. So I like to try and ride the line a little bit. If there's something in the educational system, because you charter. So yes. If there's something on the educational system on a bigger scale, where we're talking about Department of Education, things of that nature, if there's something you could change that's maybe worldwide, or that's a standard, whether it's standardized testing or anything like that, what would it be, and how could we imply that today?
Man, there are several different things to choose from. I think where I land is just accountability and state testing. I think, that's just a good start. When you talk about standardized state testing, it's a standard. And we talk about like having a standard of excellence. It is what it is. But I also think too, realistically, with testing the way that it is now, sometimes it doesn't lend itself to really, really measuring how kids are truly performing in a real context. It's standardized, it's generalized. And when you make an overgeneralization, you leave somebody out to dry every single time, whether it be a subgroup, whether it be, just there are many facets of that. And so I'll just start there. I just think if I could impact the way we do handle our state testing, I think that would be something that could really change the face of education. But I think also too, when you talk about career and technical education and the opportunities that exist for scholars, it is a growing and expanding industry. But in that, like I talked about a little bit about like teachers who are second career teachers who are coming into CTE from the career field, like really supporting those teachers, because that they're our key and our answer to helping expand education. When we talk about education in general, education was created originally to help kids prepare for the workforce, keep a 9-to-5, the rules, all that kind of stuff. But it's so much more than that. It is so much more than that. And I think by approaching it from a holistic standpoint, with the intent of providing kids opportunities that align with what they truly desire, but within that, evoking solid systems that are sustainable, I think that could be really something powerful. And so I would love to really, really expand how career and technical education is impacting our youth.
Okay. Like I said, I just like to ask, just certain tip of the iceberg stuff. I just feel like, needs to be talked about. That's one of the things why we even got this podcast, is to shed light on different strategies, different outlooks on standardized testing, just the educational field in general. It's kind of like we just want to take the gloves off a little bit. I know everything can be very practical with educators and administration. So just try and take the gloves off a little bit.
Yeah. I guess I want to say one more thing too. I think education in terms of like parents, like holistic education, allowing parents to have an opportunity to come and be better educated too, is important. Somebody cracked a joke, and it wasn't funny when you really think about it. Like somebody was like, "Well, our parents, some of our parents are not on grade level either," and I was like, "Well, when you think about it, that's a serious thing. That's an opportunity. And so, in
Yep.
education, we spend a lot of time like creating avenues to where our parents are involved in supporting their kids, but also creating opportunities and I'm saying this from the standpoint of the population that I serve. I work in urban education. And so some of the parents that we work with, they need opportunities themselves, just like their kids need further schooling, they need further advancement. And it doesn't always look like sitting in the classroom. It could look like, developing further life skills. And so there are many opportunities where parents can come in, you have Tech Goes Home, they come in, they can support and they can serve. But I think we have an opportunity, just as our kids are sometimes underserved. I think our parents need to support as well. So being creative and creating opportunities to grow our parents too would be really, really powerful.
I love it. That's good. That's good. Now that you said that, that's going to be one of my questions, right?
Okay, go
So
ahead.
how with because okay, so we know that you all are a charter school. We know that
Mhm.
Chattanooga Charter is a charter school. But then we also know you have public schools, right?
Yeah.
Which the schools that you have served. And you talk about sometimes the parents are not at the level that they need to be. Talk about how you all serve those parents and their needs.
I love that. So I'm going to talk about it in twofold. I'll start with when I was at Austin East. We did some really amazing work there, and then I'll talk about what we do at charter school. Not Austin East, I'm sorry, East Lake Academy. And so at East Lake Academy, we would have like quarterly meetings for parents to come in, and we called it table talks. But what was powerful about that was that we empowered our scholars to be able to communicate where they were to their parents. But in doing that, you learn that sometimes parents don't know exactly what's happening. And so we developed something, well, it's been in existence. So we further expanded upon what we call ELA University. There are two components of that. ELA University was with our teachers. Teachers could elect for PD and come in, before school or after school and do some PD work. But there was a component where we developed ELA University, and it was for parents. So parents can come in and build and develop their skill sets, from technology to like clerical things, how to send an email, how to set up an email, how to access things, resume building workshops. There were several opportunities, even from like manning like an aquaponics garden, which was a food system in the midst of a food desert. So that's one way, but translating that also to Chattanooga Charter, we do some of the same things where our parents can come in and they can actually work with one of our family success coordinators on developing resume, building their educational skills, so they can actually get out into the workforce and like you know further themselves. But not only that, is that our parents, they have opportunities to volunteer, but they can volunteer where they're interested. For example, we have like a dad he's very much tech oriented, works for a small business, but comes in and has an opportunity to like support our technology needs by running like a mini little repair shop in the school. That's advancement, that's experience gained. And not only that, you're teaching children how to do the same things, from keeping the grounds, from gardening, like having an opportunity like just to serve alongside kids and support them, but also to do what you love and expand your skill set in doing that. So you have parents here who like are now being hired as a part of our school, all because number one, there was a need, and then we developed their skill set to get there as well. So it's like serving two purposes. We're pushing back into the community, but we're also giving an opportunity for our parents to be a part of who we are as well, which builds that camaraderie and that unity as we expand.
That's good. That's good. I like that. So just a small just throwing something out there. If there's anything you would tell yourself when you was younger about the education, what would it be?
And I would say discipline is everything. I think what I'm learning is people, including myself, it won't, if you choose not to succeed, it won't be because you didn't have the opportunity. I think it'll be because you weren't disciplined and you weren't prepared for the opportunity. Because there's so many. Oh my God, there's so many. And so I think back, like when I was in high school, everything was easy. Oh my goodness, like going to class, like, top student, top 10% of my class, honors class. I went to Tullahoma High School, one of the only Black students to graduate in the top 10% with honors. So it was like, yeah, I'm doing it, I'm doing it, I'm doing it. And then I get to college and I'm like, whoa, like it's a whole new world. Used to be in big fish, small pond. Now it's small fish, huge pond. But the standard is a standard. You have to be excellent. You have to be diligent. And as an African American woman, it's like discipline is the key. It's not so much that you can just achieve; is do you have the discipline to sustain? And so this is a long game. It's not just about hitting milestones and killing it. It's not just about, oh, I just became a principal and I'm super young. It's about, can you sustain in this industry and really, really leave an impact? And the way to impact to me is discipline. That's the best way.
I like that. I like that. I like that. Especially because that discipline, what that discipline becomes, you needed to adjust to and overcome adversity a lot. And
Absolutely.
with African Americans, I think we lack that. I think that's the number one problem as far as us when it comes to test scores, when it comes to graduating, when it comes to finishing college, when it comes to choosing careers. Nobody's disciplined enough to stay in anything. That's to be honest with you, that's one of the main reasons I never became an engineer. I did all the workshops in middle school, high school. When it came time to college, started playing college ball, the discipline went left.
Yeah, that's real. That comfort, we are a comfort seeking, society and generation. Like everything is about my comfort. You want it, go get it, but discipline is about discomfort, like choosing to position yourself in a posture of discomfort so that you can grow. Growing only happens through pruning. That's just point blank, and so like in this season of my life, as an educator, it's like, I'm gonna be honest, I'm used to achieving, doing great things all the time. And so when things falter, it's like, Desiree, what are you gonna learn from this? Like, what are you gonna do? How are you gonna respond? Um, so yeah, discipline is key.
Okay. On you, Logan.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. I love it. So I gotta ask you. So
Okay.
we know with Chattanooga Charter, we know that you all's motto is School of Excellence. And I heard you talk about excellence and I heard you talk about discipline and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I want to ask is how are you all implementing PBIS, if you all use PBIS,
Mm-hmm.
or how are you implementing SEL, which is social and emotional learning for people who don't know what SEL is, and PBIS is positive behavior intervention support. And so if you can just touch on that, Dr. C, and just give our audience some insight in regards to that.
Absolutely. So number one, PBIS is an integral part of any school, and it should be. If it's not, it's because what it does is it takes our attention from like the 5% of kids who are cutting up, or just really, they just need a lot of TLC. It takes your attention from focusing on the negative essentially and pushes your focus onto the greater good, or the kids who are killing it every day. And they're typically your kids who aren't always celebrated for doing what is right. They just do what is right because that's what's right to do. And so at CCSE, we certainly have a strong PBIS system, and that's through our house system. We definitely love the research behind Ron Clark Academy's house system, where we have 4 houses. Every student, every faculty member, every parent, the minute they walk in the door the first day of school, will belong to a house. And in that, what we do is we foster that healthy competition. We foster unity and healthy camaraderie. But our PBIS system is also designed to honor individual creativity, which is a part of our mission, our vision mission that we state every single day. And so what it is our kids, they're a part of their houses. They compete in house wars. Every day they come in, just for coming in your uniform correctly, coming in the school, being on time, you earn points. We have a point system that scholars can redeem. We're going to expand it this year where they can actually redeem it for trips and prizes that are certainly like worthwhile. But for our kids who were knocking it out the park with attendance every day, with behavior, we went ice skating. We went to like jump park, different things like that. But all in all, our house system, we would meet weekly in our homeroom, go over where we stood as our houses, their house chants, house cheers, all of that. And by the end of the year, we would have our big, huge house word championship, which is field day, a glorified field day, where we have, like a beginning of the field day opening ceremony and closing ceremony where, we brag about our placements, our house placements. And then by the end of it, the house champion that wins, they actually earn the annual school trophy. But the house representatives from the 8th grade and their house leader, the staff house leader, actually their name goes on the placard for the trophy for the school year. And that's really, really been a powerful system that has really evoked positive behavior and camaraderie, because there's nothing like being able to dress down on a Friday, rocking my house shirt and representing, but getting to cheer, in an unadulterated manner, having a pep rally, just to show school spirit, to prepare for 10 ready testing, like all of that. Kids need something to buy into. And so our positive behavior system is something that we certainly utilize to evoke that. What was your other question on the end of that?
The SEL, how are you all implementing SEL?
SEL, I love that. So through and through, not just students, but with teachers. So what we do with our SEL, our school counselor provides SEL content during homeroom classes for scholars to work through. From what does it mean to, be respectful, show respect? What does it mean to deal with bullying? Or do you feel like you're under pressure? Like how to process pressure, peer pressure, from like performance pressure, all those things. And so during homeroom time, like the beginning of the day, that is something they implement. What I absolutely love is a shout out to Mr. Logan Taylor. On Mondays, we have what's called a mental Monday. So every Monday that the kids come in, we utilize Logan Taylor's Y.B.Normal journals to provide kids an opportunity to answer a simple question and reflect about their weekend, just to ensure that the week is set up right, just to get their mind right. Because, if your mind right, then your game can be right. If your mind's not right, then we know there are going to be some things that might be left field. It just helped us to really prepare. So it created a safe space for scholars to really be able to reflect and share what was going on in their world, but not just say, woe is me, this is what's happening, but also have some kind of forward outlook. We ask that question, what do you want to be when you grow up? Or what's stopping you? Those kind of things, they go hand in hand to not just have the conversation, but expand the conversation to give kids space and opportunity to think and process. But like I said, in that, we didn't just stop with scholars. We would do mental health huddles for our teachers. So during their planning, they would actually go as a small group and work with the school counselor just to kind of process, where they were, how they were handling things, just because as sometimes adults, we need that. We certainly need that safe space to kind of deglaze and really get real about where we are. So that's how we implemented SEL.
I love it. I love it. And I got to say again, thank you on the podcast. I mean, of course, I text you all the time asking you, how does this look? I got this idea. What do you think? Like, I got to say again, and I want to say this publicly, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for allowing us the opportunity to put our journals in your school, and just allowing us the opportunity to be able to serve. And of course, Dr. Seay talked about our journals. And what you all don't know is that the journals are transcribed in English and Spanish.
Yes.
And she has Spanish speaking scholars in her school, and they
Yes.
use our Spanish journals.
Yes.
So, it's been an amazing experience this year. I got to speak at their school, did a speakers assembly. We need to get together because I owe your scholars a pizza party,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
they actually won the bet or the proposal that I came up with. And, I just really, if you don't mind, can you touch on that? Just how did your scholars feel knowing that they accomplished something so big as a community?
They were quite proud. And I just want to say they certainly remind you of what they earned. So I know they're looking forward to that. And so the wager was that at the beginning of the year, if our scholars could absolutely show growth by the end of the year, the number of kids who showed growth on their 10 ready and I ready will receive a pizza party from Mr. Taylor. And so we had several of our students do that. They worked really hard, and of course, you wager them along the way. So part of like our iReady growth was like, okay, every Friday if you hit your time, you got an out of dress code ticket to kind of push the envelope. And so by the end of the year, they'd accumulated so many tickets, but now it's like, okay, now this is the last one. Let's show some growth for real, for real. And so I'm proud to say that like over 30% of our kids like grew, like certainly grew. And when I say grow, we're talking about improving literacy and math skills. And
Awesome. Awesome.
at the beginning of the year, you'll see that there are scholars who underperform, who are under grade level, and part of our goal as a staff is we have to close those gaps as best as possible. And so you're talking about kids who had more than 2 years of growth who needed to close those gaps. And so we were diligent with our iReady programming and with our intentional tutoring small groups to really close some gaps for our scholars so they could be better, prepared. And so that is something we're extremely proud of and excited about, and continue to push forward in that. So.
All right, I just want to pay respects to you in regards to your culture and your foundation of your school that you're doing. I just want to say you're doing a great job on that. I think people forget how big it is creating a foundation. I'm assistant basketball coach, so I'm very big on foundation and culture. And we just really appreciate you allowing our journals to be a part of that foundation and culture that you guys are doing over there. So I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Thank you.
And that's really amazing. So
thank you so much.
Listen, man, Dr.Seay the GOAT, man. I'm always telling her she the GOAT. She hit me with a little heart. She'd be like, "Thank you, Logan," and I'd be like, "Nah, you need to pop off. Go ahead and pop off real quick. You hear me? Pop off real quick. It's okay. It's just me and you. You can pop off real quick." Nah, but she said it like she said 30%. Like, do you know how big that is?
Yeah, that's major.
Right, 30% of her scholars have grown, and that's because of the foundation that she set. And I just think, listen, man, I salute you every opportunity I get, because we first met at East Lake, and so that's where you first met me. That's where you first heard me speak and everything. And I can remember her getting the position, and I got a text message from her, and she said, "Logan, we need to meet." I'm like, "Okay, let's find when you want to meet." And then she said, "Oh, I got the position at Chattanooga Charter." I was like, "You did what?" She said, "I got the position at Chattanooga Charter," and I was just so excited. And I said, "All right, let's meet." And then I told her, the services that we were offering, what we were getting ready to implement. And I said, "Hey, we got these journals. They're dealing with social and emotional learning. I know that, your scholars are coming out of COVID. This is the very first year. I know that you all are going to need some help. This is how we can do this. This is how we can implement these things. And so, let me know, what do you think? And let's go from there." And she said, "Logan, let's do it." And I was just like, "Okay, let's do it." And from there, it just caught like wildfire. And her students, man, at Chattanooga Charter, man, they are amazing. They are amazing. Like, I can't stress it enough. They are amazing. I actually had a student. I got the picture that the student drew. I got that picture framed. So I gotta make sure that I shout out the student that was drawing me up while I was in the middle of my speakers assembly. And came to me and was like, "Hey, look, this is you. I did this for you." And I was just like, "What?" Like, in the middle of me speaking?
Really good. It's
So it
really
was
good.
like, yeah. I was just like, wow, okay,
Awesome
amazing.
job. Absolutely.
So I
Absolutely.
love it.
Well, thank
So, Dr.Seay, last question before we get off here, because I know you got a busy day ahead of you. And so, last question: what is one thing that you would change in the education space And it could be anything. It could be, it could be testing. It could be the foundation and how you're setting things up for schools. You could wipe away public education and just do completely charter, like whatever it would be. What is one thing, from your point of view, and all in just your journey and your timeline in the education space? What is one thing that you would change about education?
That's a really good question, and that does take some thought. Um, I think, I think through and through, I really believe in holistic education for scholars and teachers. I go back to that. I think it's like I said before, we spend so much time with children and we play so many roles. Good Lord. And so just really holistically impacting a child from the physical, the mental, the spiritual, like how to build community. Like I would say this, financial literacy needs to be something that is required from kindergarten through and through. I think that's one that that's an easy piece to adjust. Just because I feel like without it, our kids are behind the eight ball. Like I took financial planning in high school, but I think the gravity and the meaning of what I had taken really could have hit home even further had I had it like in elementary school. And so financial literacy is something that is absolutely impacting in terms of legacy. And I think that's a really big proponent of holistic approach to education, just so that our kids are really set up for success from the beginning. When you I'm going to go Bible for a second. The scripture says, train up a child in the way they should go, and when they're old, they will not depart. When you impart like financial literacy from the time that they are small, it's a natural way of life. They don't know anything differently because they've known it the whole way through and through. Whereas now, when we experience kids, when it comes to money, sex, cars, drug, all of that, it looks like this far-reaching item. So when they get it, it's hard to hold on to, or they don't understand it fully, or they run through their money. Like being 100, in college, you get your refund check. Nobody tells you, hey man, you should really invest that or throw that back at the interest on the loans that you took out. Knowing that up front changes your world, changes your fight. It puts you in a better economical position. And so I really believe if I could really impact education, it would be the requirement that financial literacy be a standard that is taught from the time kids enter pre-K kindergarten. Just the concept of money and understanding that it takes money to do things, understanding like wealth acquisition early on. I think that would be the major thing that I would change.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, Dr. C, before we get out of here again, I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you,
Truly
thank you, thank
appreciate it.
you so
Truly
much
appreciate you coming on with us,
for this
Lord.
opportunity and coming on to class and session. Um, I look forward to us continuing to build our relationship. I look forward to continuing to break barriers down with you, shattering the backboard, and serving in any capacity, and how Y.B.Normal could help in any facet. And so, again, this is class in session, guys. I am your host, Logan Taylor, and my amazing co-host, Mr. Dontay Hampton. And listen, man, we out. Make sure you all subscribe. Make sure you all leave a review. And
Yep,
listen,
yep.
man, continue. As always, why be normal when you can
When
be
you can be
extraordinary?
extraordinary.
Peace.
Thank you.